This is a super furry PS5. It also has an HDMI port problem. It's a PS5. We expect that, so let's fix it. Here are a couple quick shots.
White J's, white Porsche, white wrist, white horse, hi bitch, hi bitch.
Let's get this thing broken down. First we remove the plastic door. Then we remove the plastic vent cover thing. We'll clean that out later. We'll need a Torx bit to remove the screws, as well as one Phillips head bit. We use the Phillips bit here and a lot later. Here's a tip for keeping track of all your screws. Lay them out how you got them. Leave them in the same pattern and you'll never have an issue. Well, hopefully. Okay, now that we're this far, we need to remove every screw that we can see. They're all pretty much the same. This is like 1800 times speed. Do something like that. Putting this pressure next to the power supply socket helps a lot to get this thing out. And look at that dry spot. Look, almost all PS5s are gonna have a dry spot. That's a pretty good one right there. Let's get this HDMI port replaced. Real quick, before I actually get into the HDMI port replacement stuff, take note of where the liquid metal was pooled up. Horizontal or vertical, what do you think? Anyway, the HDMI port came out really easily. Thank God, some of these can be such a pain, and so we'll apply some flux and some solder to the new port itself, so it's all primed up and ready to go. We will have to do the same kind of primed up and ready to go thing for the pads here on the motherboard, because these are what's going to touch that port that we just did. So we want them both to be nice and pretty, and then we can just start heating stuff to a bajillion degrees again. I use this X-Acto knife to test if it's liquid, and once it is, I'll press it in. One side will usually be liquid and one side usually won't be. That's just how it works for me. So I press down really hard on that side. You saw it set in, and press in on the center. Let it sit for a second, and that's usually all. I go immediately into cleaning after that. Just make sure that the area is not covered in flux. Flux is so disgusting. And now we move on to the liquid metal stuff. We're gonna suck up the liquid metal out of the edges so that we can reuse that in just a second. So this is your dry spot. It's a spot that's dry. This happens because of oxidation. It's the same chemical process that happens to the Statue of Liberty. That's why she's green now. She used to be bronze. It's because she oxidized. So you rub off all of that oxidation, and you start to see the shiny underlayer that was there initially. You have to remove all of this oxidation in order for the liquid metal to spread correctly once again. We're going to spray out or put out all of the liquid metal that we found around. So we actually have not added any liquid metal to this PS5 at all. This is all the original liquid metal. It just got, stuck somewhere. And this is a pretty infuriating process, spreading out the liquid metal. Honestly, I won't lie to you. It sucks. Perfect. That is that step done. We're going to move on to doing the dry spot here on the CPU. And again, same process. Suck up the liquid metal and then break down that oxidation. And then you'll see I'll switch to a regular Q-tip here, and you can actually see how black that oxidation is on the Q-tip. And yeah, this is the CPU itself, or the APU, the processor and it's super shiny. I love how pretty these are. And we'll reuse again the same. We're just reusing liquid metal from the PS5. We'll go over it, and that looks perfect. You just want the whole thing to be covered. We will check our CMOS battery here. CMOS battery is good. Don't know why these are still in PS5s, but we'll put it back together anyway. All right, let's do it. Gotta screw in that clamp that holds down the CPU. Put down that plate, and then also put the plastic as well as the fan in. We are about ready for our first testicle. I put this thing mostly together without testing it. Everybody says to test before you put it together, but I feel like that's just giving it a chance not to work. Here we go. Uh-oh. Oh no, we're good. We're good. Hey. Now we just gotta get this thing cleaned up, which is gonna be the most satisfying part of the repair. I always just plug a keyboard in for this really quick, because you can't turn the console off before saying, okay, I'm sorry for turning off the console incorrectly. And now we can turn the console off. I'm gonna let that shut down and start filling the air compressor. Does anybody remember 5 years ago when I made my whole entire thing just cleaning computers? Man, good stuff. Those videos do garbage now. But it's still satisfying stuff, I think. I'm pretty much just blowing out all of the dust from these pieces that I can. The fan, things stuck to this fan. This was sticky dust. I learned in this moment that this was cigarette. Surprisingly, this did not smell. So it could also be MJ dust, maybe. I'm not sure. Either way, it's very sticky, and you can see the residue on the plastic there. I try to brush out this fan a good bit, and you can see a lot more dust that does come out of it, but it still needs some work. This is, of course, just our initial cleaning. We want to make sure that things are just dusted out and loose particles are gone. We'll move on to this plastic side really, really quick. That's just going to be stupid simple, and then we're going to blow out all of this, which is super satisfying, I think. That was a lot of really thick dust right there, and this thing's gonna breathe a lot better. We make sure we blow out the heat sinks, and we're ready to move on. Y'all want to talk about some nasty shiz. So we got the rubbing alcohol, 99.9%, and we are going to remove all of this staining. It is wild how freaking sticky and gross this dust is. Obviously, it really doesn't need to be perfect, but dust equals heat, and this stuff that's on here is really sticky. So the dust would like to stick to it and in turn cause heat. This fan was a bit of a pain. I ended up using this, like, cloth on a stick. And I dip it in the rubbing alcohol, and I'm going through to, like, each and every blade. And I'm cleaning off every blade because every single blade is sticky as all get out on both sides. So, we're cleaning off each blade, and you'll see, I wanted this to be, like, super satisfying. You'll see how much dirtier and dirtier that freaking alcohol that I'm wiping off gets. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh man. It's looking pretty good. Get that cleaned up, move on. A quick rub down of the other surfaces, and we're almost done here. And brushing! Don't forget the brushing. You always want to brush. I've put it off long enough. Time to screw in about 7 bajillion screws. While I'm screwing this stuff in, I want to explain to you how to keep track of these screws if you're doing this job. All of the screws that I have laid out there, the top level screws, these screws were under that black plastic. You notice how all of them look the same, except for one. You might also notice that there are more holes here than there are screws. You will see spots marked with little lines on either side of the screw hole, and that will tell you not to put a screw in. There is only one lethal screw to worry about. It is not this one, which is covered by a security tape. It is not this one that hooks up into a plastic clip. It is this one that sits directly above the HDMI port. If you screw in the wrong screw here that is too long, you will go straight through to the motherboard and you'll mess it up. Like, if you are worried about putting the wrong screw in that, literally just don't put a screw in it. Like, literally just don't. It'll be fine. Anyway, little bit of Alfie. Spank that PS5. Alfie. And that, my friends, makes one fixed PlayStation.